My name is Jose Ruiz-Alba. I am Professor of Marketing at the University of Westminster in London. It is an honor to introduce Professor Miguel Ruiz-Canela. He is the Chair of the Department of Preventive Medicine and Public Health at the University of Navarra, Spain. He will be speaking today about taste for wellness, culinary nutrition, and consumer choices. We have here some of our colleagues in campus in London, and also other researchers that have joined us online from different parts of the world. Someone even connected from Vietnam with very different time zones. So I will hand it over to Professor Ruiz-Canela.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Jose, for giving me the opportunity to be here with all of you to talk about something that I'm used to do in my research, but at the same time, I made the effort to connect, with other disciplines as marketing in order to find some places where we can work together. So let me show you my outline that I was first thinking to just provide you with a brief context about public health, because maybe you are less familiar. And then I will present some results of the research I've been conducting on cooking and gastronomy with this idea of going beyond nutrition and health. And finally, some thoughts about this common ground for the interdisciplinary research, and we'll be more focused on the concept of well-being and eating pleasure. So beginning with the context, just to let you know that public health is, we could say very briefly that it's the health at the population level. So our patient is not an individual, but a population. So we are worried about the impact that some diseases may have in the population. Also the distribution, because we need to evaluate if there are some discriminative problems and problems related with a lack of equity. And finally, we want to know the determinants of these health issues. So very briefly, you can see here the main causes of death in the last statistics that we can see globally. And in blue color are those diseases that are more related with behavior. Similar statistics that you can see here are about the determinants. So you can see that the top 10 determinants, most of them are high blood pressure, tobacco, dietary risk, and other factors that are at the same time also related with our behavior, such as high fasting plasma glucose or high body mass index, high cholesterol, etc. So basically, the brief message is just to say that most of the causes of the death currently, and most of the determinants are related with our behavior. But if we think about the determinants, we can talk about the exposome. So it's really complex to assess the influence that what we are exposed to in our daily life and during our whole life is related with our health. So in this context, it's important to remember that we will focus mostly on diet, but we need to consider other determinants. And we also want not only to prevent disease, but to promote health. So this is the idea of the Ottawa Charter for Health, published in 1986, about creating supportive environments to enable individuals to follow healthier choices. So in this architecture of the election with the nudging theory, that is very helpful also for public health. And also in terms of defining health, I think it's very important to remember the definition of the World Health Organization is a very comprehensive definition. It was published more than 70 years ago, and it's not only the absence of disease, but it's you can read a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So this is very ambitious definition. Connecting with this definition, there are some epidemiologists that are developing the concept of human flourishing. That is, in some way, some approaches in order to measure this holistic perspective of health. That, as you can see, it's I have underlined the word well-being. So in this context, what we try to do is how to make a change of people, from eating non-very healthy food and in a high amount of intake every day that is causing the pandemic of obesity, cardiometabolic diseases, cancer related with obesity, even some depression factors are related with what we eat. So we need to change this. How we do it? Okay, so I love this book that was published some years ago. It's titled Hungry Planet. And this photographer was traveling around the world, taking pictures of families with a meal for 1 week. And you can read the history of the stories of each one of these families, how they live in their everyday life. So it provides you with some context about those factors that make people to buy specific foods and to cook them, etc. So just seeing the pictures gives you some idea about why some of them are less obese than others. So it's quite clear just with this snapshot of what they buy in there every week, etc. So and we can go now on this second section on going beyond nutrition and the role that has cooking and gastronomy. So there is an author that published this, that olive oil is made from ripe olives, and its health-giving qualities and many uses are so well known that I need not to describe them here. So I could say the same sentence today, but this was taken from a book published in the between the 16th and 17th century. It's an Italian that came here to UK in order to promote the cooking and the style related with the Mediterranean diet. So we have learned a lot about the Mediterranean diet since that moment. So you can see here that from this year of the publication of the book in 1614, there are many milestones that are very relevant. And right now, the Mediterranean diet is considered the number one top diet, best diet in the US. So I would like to to underline that there are some milestones where we can measure the Mediterranean diet and to see the association with many diseases. The PREDIMED trial was like a reference clinical trial in the world. But probably before that, we had a pyramid that it's a way to represent the Mediterranean diet. So you can see here on your left, the first version of this pyramid, and on your right, the most current version that we use in Spain. So you can see here in a very graphically way, the foods that should be consumed more frequently and those that could be, consumed only occasionally. So on the top, you can see the sweets or red meat. But you can see also in the current version that at the bottom, there are other aspects beyond the diet, is more related with other lifestyles that could be part of the Mediterranean diet. So you can see regular physical activity, an adequate rest, or conviviality. And within these different aspects beyond the diet, you can see one of them is related with the culinary part. So here, my point of view is that we need to move on and to go from what we eat to how we do to eat. I think it makes a huge difference. So probably there is still some lack of knowledge in the population about what's healthy or not in terms of the food. But once you know it, you need to know how to change and to incorporate in your everyday life. So for this reason, I think that we need to combine not only nutrition, but also cooking and gastronomy, and the result can be health. So the nutrition, we're more focused on the foods or food groups, or even the dietary patterns, such as the Mediterranean diet. But we need to know also what happens when we are at the kitchen during the food processing and cooking, which are those physical and chemical changes that can be good or bad for our health. And also the gastronomy perspective, not only the top high restaurants, but also the most gastronomy for the everyday life that involves those social, cultural, and sensory experiences. So home cooking is considered, or I consider it as the antidote to eating ultra-processed foods. The most that you cook at home, the less that you eat ultra-processed foods. I like this sentence from Michael Pollan, and he said, eat all the junk food you want, as long as you cook it yourself. That way, it will be less junky, and you won't eat it every day because it's a lot of work. So it makes sense, and it's related also with the quality of your diet. The most that you cook at home, the highest the quality, and also there are some studies connecting this with health. So here you can see in red color the frequency that people is consuming ultra-processed foods and how it goes down in relationship with the frequency of cooking at home. So it's a demonstration that if you cook more, you eat less ultra-processed foods. That's, as you know, or I can tell you, there are many studies showing the association of ultra-processed foods with a higher risk of mortality or chronic diseases. So we need to know that, it's not just that we need to eat vegetables, but that there are many changes in the foods when we process them at home. So there are many activities that are before or even after cooking, how we prepare the food, how we preserve it or modify them, and many processes, not only thermal, but mechanical, chemical, etc. And what we are looking for is to improve taste, texture, the digestibility, even the microbiological safety and bioavailability. So there are these some basic examples that probably that you done in your everyday when you cook at home. Just crushing the garlic improves the nutrient availability because you have more availability of allicin, for example, or just the process of marinating, or the osmosis that happens when you are mixing tomatoes with salt and other foods. And also the cooking methods makes an influence in your health. You can see here different methods according to the temperature. So those on the top, like when you use flames or hot metal or hot air, those techniques like grill, barbecue, griddle, saute, roasting, baking, most of them are related with higher risk for diseases compared to other techniques. You have also the use of hot oil or hot water, steam, microwave, or even you have another more recent techniques like the sous vide or different robots or slow cooking, air fryer, pizza oven. There are many, many techniques, and they are measured at the consumer level. For example, here you can see the most culinary techniques used in Spain. This is a report that is published every year in Spain about the consumer behavior related with foods. So you can see here, griddle is the most frequent, and the second is raw food. So basically salads, boil in the third level, etc. So the Mediterranean diet has not only something related with food as an identifier of what is the Mediterranean diet, but also we can talk about the Mediterranean cooking style. And this can be also bad for our health. So when you cook meat, you have like some physical changes in the texture, and also some chemical changes in the aroma, in the taste. And you're usually asked when you go to a restaurant how you want your meat, if rare, medium, or well done. So this is related also with health, because when you cook, especially animal foods, there are many contaminants, chemicals that are related with cancer or with cardiovascular diseases, such the heterocyclic amines or the hydrocarbons or the advanced ligation and products. So the higher the temperature, the longest the duration of cooking, low moisture and high pH is related with higher production of these chemicals. Beyond that, I would say that I like to use this expression about cook to care. And the care relates with culture, affection, reflection, and ecology. So this is just a suggestive view of that when we cook, we do something else beyond, that transforming the food. I always like to talk about the sofrito because this is like a very common in the Mediterranean diet. In other parts in the Mediterranean region, for example, in Greece, it's called garisma. So it's like a very common in many countries, although it changes some aspects. But I took this video just in, at home. I was cooking a paella, but at the bottom you can see the sofrito. I added here some peppers, but just we can smell here, obviously. But if you were there, just the smell of this, is delicious. And the sound when it's like a slow frying technique where tomato and garlic and onion are like mixing the nutrients with olive oil. So that's like the basic of the Mediterranean diet. So if we lose this technique, we are losing the Mediterranean diet style. It's not just, as I said, the combination of raw foods. And I was talking about smell, and there is this society cascade combination when you have the aroma and the taste, and also the size, the appearance, texture. So there are many components that are related with what we see, what we feel, and that makes a huge difference. And it can be related with the amount of what we eat, etc. And also the environmentally friendly culinary activities. So in the same report that I mentioned before, because the Mediterranean diet is related with a plant-based, seasonal and local, minimally processed, and where, we have this culture of use the leftovers from the day before and to do something else. So we need to avoid the food waste, and it's increasing For example, here not here in my country, in Spain, especially those meals that you cook and you put in the fridge. So, you know, that maybe there's a lack of time, lack of imagination in order to use better the food waste. Of course, the home cooking is very complex. Showing you here, like in the half parts of this circle, the determinants. So in the different levels, so even still in Spain, it's not common, you know, that a male is cooking at home. Mostly are female. It changes with age. And then there are other factors in another levels, which are your aspirations, your cooking skills, or if you need something related with your health or your time, your resources, and another levels, you know, related with a household composition or culture or ethnic group. And all of them are related with outcomes in relationship with health, as I mentioned before. So in this context, we've been working in an Erasmus Plus project that we called Cook to Diabetes project. So we have created this image of a kitchen where we want people with type 2 diabetes and the familiar living with them to explore this kitchen in order that they can see something about, you know, in relationship with the microwave or lifestyle, etc. So this is still developing. We have not finished, but it will be available for free in this webpage, a platform where you can see in English, Spanish, in Greek, in French, and this platform in order to connect what you have to eat, and also with how you do to eat what we want. So I just want to show you one example of what there are almost 50 recipes that are available in this platform. So okay, so I have to say that I would prefer to have this talk in a kitchen, cooking and eating all together, but it's not possible online. Anyway,
You need to tell them.
yes.
If you don't mind, you can explain them that you're a chef. Also, apart from an academic.
Yes. Yeah, usually I have an experience that with some groups that I call it think and taste, or taste and think. So where we combine, you know, knowledge with experience of tasting. And it's really interesting how people are surprised. But anyway, we are developing this in order to have this cook to diabetes kitchen. So of course, we don't have all the resources I would like to have the perfect, but at least it's something. Even though I was discussing before with Jose that we had a small focus group with some people with diabetes in Spain. Some of them were, old people, 70, 75, and they didn't like it a lot, this, because they are not, they don't want to change. They are used to what they eat every day. So it's really challenging, all these questions. Anyway, and here you can see an example of a study that we conducted with the Basque Culinary Center. So that was during the pandemic. So it was online. So you could connect with a chef from the Basque Culinary Center. We published the results in the International Journal of Gastronomy and Food Science. The study is called Sukalmena. It's a Basque word. Well, in fact, it's two words that combine empowerment in the kitchen. And so here, the focus is the same. It's not telling people what they have to eat, but providing them with some tools in order to know how to cook what they have to eat. And also providing them some healthy culinary techniques. As you can see, the papillote, for example, in the picture, because these techniques are related with a lower amount of advanced glycation and products, and these are related with diabetes. So we had some results where we can demonstrate that the participants reduced the techniques with higher advanced glycation and products formation. So we are not, of course, then changing the Mediterranean diet in terms of the foods, but also changing the culinary techniques. And of course, something that is very important everywhere, I think, but is part, at least, of the Mediterranean diet is family meals. There are several studies that have shown that they are related with better behavior and diet quality. And also, it's related with psychological outcomes, talking together. So the diet is something else than eating. So there are some characteristics that should be present. So one of them is, you should have meal at home around a table with homemade food, and also where most family members are present and without other distractions. So no TV, no smartphones, so just talk and eat. So that's so important to understand what's the Mediterranean diet lifestyle. And we also have conducted a study with kids and families. It's the NCHEF study. It means nutritional and culinary habits to empower families towards sustainability. So we have conducted a feasibility study and a pilot study, and you can see here some picture of the chef and the dietitians that are together in a kitchen with the families. So they learn not recipes, but they learn culinary techniques, and they understand what's going on, with the chemical processes and the nutritional value. And it's also connecting this with other lifestyle, with your sleep habits, with your physical activity, etc. And you can see here that we can show some changes, and not only immediately after the intervention, is like the first column, but on your right is how it changed confidence about cooking at home after the follow-up. So we followed families without any other intervention, but we could demonstrate that, the habits that are incorporated when you learn to cook are stronger if you just provide them some knowledge. I've been working also in the Mediterranean culinary pyramid. So this is not yet published, but here what I want to do is to present not the classical Mediterranean diet pyramid, but those aspects related with cooking. So at the bottom, you have, those more aspects related with the social tradition, ecological point of view, even the concept of time. You can see there the sun clock, because in some way it should be stopped, the time, our chronological watch for a time, and also the use of leftovers, etc. So this idea of family meals are there on the bottom, and then you have those techniques that you use to process the foods, even to consume raw foods, or the sofrito, and the use of garlic, tomato, etc., the marinating technique. And then you have those that are ordered according, you can see on your left, according to the temperature, and on your right, according to the moisture. So those that are using highest temperature and with a small amount of water or other liquid are those that have higher risk for cancer and other diseases. So my idea is to publish this and to support this pyramid in relationship with the studies that can demonstrate that these techniques or this social part are related with health. And finally, I have this decalogue for a meal aimed at the human flourishing. So I'm connecting this idea of a human flourishing with how should be a meal. So it should be natural, fresh, nutritious, healthy, but also delicious and attractive, authentic, pleasurable, mindful, and inclusive. So there are many aspects that we could talk about, but of course we don't have time. The last section, I will be brief, but I would like to underline those common ground for interdisciplinary research and mostly focus on the concept of well-being. That's, as I said at the beginning, is part of the definition of health according to the World Health Organization. So in this paper published by Tyler Vanderbilt that proposed the concept of human flourishing, he connected health with economics and positive psychology. So you don't need to read the full text, but just the idea that we are connecting disciplines that initially they are far away from one to another. And he explained that one thing that connected all of them was well-being. So we are focusing on the same question from different perspectives. So the idea of home cooking and enjoyment is very important because, of course, we know that home cooking is considered a part of the household core. So it's very time-intensive activity. And sometimes, so it can be a burden. But we can also see this activity as some time for relax. There is this concept of mindful cooking. So when you cook, you are focused on something. So you forget about other things, even your problems. So there is this survey. I have collaborated with Cookpad, that is an app where you can see many recipes from all over the world. And they also had this survey in collaboration with Gallup. And you can see here that there is an important percentage of the people participating in this survey that they enjoyed cooking in the past 7 days. There are others that not. And you can see still some difference according to sex, to the gender, male or female. And there is also this very interesting survey. It's about recipes for well-being. And it's also the collaboration with a Japanese company and foundation, Ando Foundation and Gallup. So they just added these simple questions about would you say that you mostly enjoyed the food you ate? Do you think the food you ate was mostly healthy? And do you feel that a lot of choices in the type of food you ate each day or not? So they can demonstrate that there is an important percentage of those people in the survey that they ate most healthy in the past 7 days. But this is related with the income. So this is another important point that we must consider. I have an agreement with both Cookpad and the Ando Foundation, and I have the whole database to analyze these data more deeply because I think it's really interesting. But it's also important to consider the consumers' experiences with eating. So this is like very long to explain, but this is a paper published in the Journal of Public Policy and Marketing. So it's interesting because it was a qualitative study, and they were making a deep analysis of those contextual conditions that are related with eating. And you have time, and you have the product and the recipe and the physical setting and the companionship. So those are really important in this experience. And also during the process that you are producing the meal, you know, the food acquisition, food preparation, the ingestion, and the post-eating. So this is a process, and the result is related with emotions. It affects your moods. And this is really interesting to better understand. This paper was called, the title is Eudaimonia Around the Kitchen. So sorry for the pronunciation. But for example, they have some sentences from this phenomenological interview. And one is this one about the quest for authenticity. And she says, I was at the market doing my shopping, and there were loads of herbs, aromatic herbs. Ones I don't find here, ones I barely knew. So I thought I would do something with them, and it was really great. The act of purchasing is something else, because you have the chance to learn about something that you don't know and to have it explained to you, and not by just anyone, but by the person who produced it, who grew it, who made it, and is now talking about it. Someone who doesn't talk about it the same way anyone else would, both because he knows the product better and because he knows what he's talking about. So it's just an experience. And in this paper, they collect all the different areas that I mentioned in the previous slide. And finally, or almost finally, I think it's a very interesting, this review, that it's about, can eating pleasure be a lever for healthy eating? So this is a systematic review. And in this review, I will mention before this figure, but they make this distinction about eating pleasure. One is the visceral eating pleasure. It's like a more basic. It's that when it's triggered by an emotional urge, an external cue. So basically, you are hungry and you need to eat. It's like your biological preference. This is related more with immediate satisfaction, the consumption of high-fat, high-sugar foods. And then you have the Epicurean eating pleasure. So this is more complex because it's not only the food characteristics, but are other dimensions. It's multidimensional. So you have the individual, the environment, and the social context. So it's like a more complex definition of eating pleasure. And also with a more long-term effect. So in this review, they showed that this eating pleasure, the Epicurean one, is related with some dietary outcome and some health outcomes. It's interesting that not always it was in the same direction. Sometimes it's related with a favorable association and others not. And in others, it's a mix or even neutral association. So it's interesting that the studies where this is a systematic review, where the association was inverse, was unfavorable, was in the association between pleasure and weight and BMI. So in this case, the authors mentioned that in this case, these studies, there are 8 studies with this data. They basically were measuring the visceral pleasure and not the Epicurean pleasure. So there are many aspects that we can connect pleasure from a healthy perspective. And I liked a lot from this paper, the introduction, where they said, okay, in public health, we may focus on the health about food. But sometimes it's much better to focus on pleasure if you want to make a change in people. So the challenge is to connect pleasure with health, to focus on this concept of Epicurean health, and to have the consequence, for example, that people that are related with this concept of Epicurean health, they choose better foods, or the portion size is smaller. So it's interesting how even you are looking for pleasure, you choose better foods, and when I mean better, it can be vegetables or fruits or plant-based foods in general. Also interesting that you can choose smaller portion size. Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone. And I love this sentence from a French from the 18th century, where he says to receive guests is to take charge of their happiness during the entire time they're under your roof. So again, this is not new. Is that when we talk about cooking for someone, you are talking about happiness. And so that's very well known since many centuries ago. So thank you very much for your attention. And you can see here a picture of my team, and also on the back, the hospital clinic in Pamplona in Navarra, that's in the north of Spain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. So it was a pleasure. We enjoyed your presentation. It was a bit risky because it's 2 p.m. UK time, so we are hungry. Seeing all of these kind of culinary recipes and etc. you were showing us. So as a matter of courtesy with those who are overseas, like Ling, you are in Hanoi, if I'm not wrong, Vietnam. Mr. Jay,
I'm
who's
in
connected
Hanoi.
from Spain. If you want to make a question, those who are online, we can give you the option to make a question or a comment if you want.
My question is, well, thank you very much. Really, it's kind of very eye-opening. You see, kind of the information that you see is very relevant and very important for us, not as academicians, but as for humans, see, as well. So, but you see, I have a question because in terms of getting the right cooking and eating habits, well, apparently, their entire population is quite well aware of that. But what would you say about just the public, policy, particularly in dealing with public cooking? I mean, restaurants and you see other enterprises that are engaged in this business, because apparently they're not interested in promoting, healthy food. In terms of the cooking at home, and particularly, well, of course, it is important that it should be done, that way. But apparently then it's just a matter of gender differences. Then it's a matter of just of the time and the effort that modern humans apparently just could not see sacrifice just every day. And what would be your advice in this respect? How to deal with these frontiers and obstacles that we face, and and other people apparently face every day.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you, Sergey, for your also for your comment. So I think it's really a complex question. But first of all, I think that if you, if we can provide people with higher knowledge about not only the quality of food, but all the questions I've been talking about, as consumer, they will demand products or restaurants or services that correspond with what they want to find, health and ecology. And so sometimes we don't receive much information when you go to a restaurant. What's the source of the foods, or are you adding olive oil or any other olive oils, or what oils are you using, or I don't know, which culinary technique are you using? So this is no information almost, I guess, in the restaurants. So but I think that at least people with the knowledge will be more demanding about these questions as first idea. And also I think it's like a very important field of research and public policy in the area of those companies that are related with providing foods to specific sectors, hospitals, schools. So at least in Spain, the foods for the patients are not quite good, and sometimes this is like a huge surprise because, maybe you are in a very good hospital with very good doctors and nurses, etc., but the food is depressing and it's another factor for your health. So there's many things to improve, and here is not just the food, is how you present this food to the patients, etc. So I think that, for example, hospitals should be a place where nutritional values and other aspects should be promoted, and they could learn more once they are as patients in the hospital, and the family, so they can go home back, not only without the disease, but also with additional knowledge about how improve their lifestyle. So yeah, and these questions, as you said, should be like a more clearly expressed in the public policies, etc., because it looked like they have no relevance at all. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Miguel, for your expert view and outlook. So it's very valuable. Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments?
I have a question. Was it like scientifically proven that the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest option and the most appropriate for
Can
people?
you say again, because I was listening?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, has it been proven, like, scientifically, that Mediterranean diet is the most appropriate and healthy option and choice for people? Has it been proven scientifically?
Yes.
Really? It's like a, yes, sorry.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't mean that there are other healthy dietary patterns, but the Mediterranean dietary pattern is the one that has more scientific evidence. So, but that's very interesting question, because something that is a characteristic of the dietary pattern is that it's local and the cultural aspects. So sometimes you cannot, move like a 100% of the diet that you are having in the south of Spain or in Greece to, I don't know.
Other countries.
Yeah, so you need to adapt the dietary pattern, but at least the main message is the dietary pattern, the traditional dietary pattern. For some reasons, sometimes it's just for economic reasons, because many typical foods from the Mediterranean countries were meals for poor people, but they couldn't afford red meat. So now we have discovered, oh, that's good, because it's healthy. But at that time, the reason was not health, was just the money that you could
Cost saving
yes
process, basically.
and the gazpacho, and it's basic, and it's just tomato. They're like a very simple meals, but at the same time very accessible. So I mean that we need to adapt the dietary patterns from other places in order to make them healthy if they are not, as happens with the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, but I think the Mediterranean diet like mostly fit to majority of countries in the world, maybe that's the case, that it has been chosen by people, like as you mentioned in your presentation regarding of the US population, right? US nationals, that they do prefer Mediterranean diet a lot,
Yes.
you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because like I think it fits very well different cultures. That's what I'm trying to say. But I also heard like I think it's widely spread nowadays the idea of Japanese way of living, and it seems like it works like it. Usually people do say that it different digestion system depends on the nation where you're from, basically, right? So like culturally, so like for instance, if you take into account like Indians, they do eat a lot of curry and they digest it well. If you bring someone like from different nation, like Eastern European, will not be that easy to digest the same way of cooking and the same food. And what I'm just trying to say, sorry, coming back to this Japanese way of living, it seems like this one has been accepted by different, I've heard like different scientific proofs in that regard, that by different nations it has been accepted as a way of healthy eating, and raw, not processed food is mostly chosen like by different cultures and nations as the way for the longevity as well, and different things. So that's why that I'm asking is just like comparable. I want to answer on my question, in my head, just like comparable to Japanese diet, between Japanese diet and Mediterranean one. Which one will be the best based on your choice?
Well,
Observations from you. Maybe you can
yeah,
say something.
yeah, from a scientific point of view, the most evident is the Mediterranean diet, but that's only because there are more research groups publishing or conducting studies. Personally, something I like all the time is to try new foods. And that's something I didn't mention, but also cooking and eating food is a way to travel without moving from where you are living. So, to try meals from Japan or even Africa or Asia or any country is so interesting. And of course, there are some, probably you are familiar with the blue zones. That is a study that has been identified those places in the world where there are percentage of people living more than 100 years, like above the median. So one of these places is in Okinawa in Japan. Another is in California. Another is in Nicosia. So there are different spots where you can find these. So they have in common different lifestyles, not only diet, but each one has their own diet. So some of them are like in Japan, more focused on some vegetables, but also on seafood. In California, there's other differences. So I think that all of them in any way have some common aspects, like less meat, more plant-based foods, etc.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, there are common aspects between different cuisines. You can find common patterns. Yeah,
What
thank
you
you.
said, Irina,
Thank you.
mentioned the Japanese way of life, and also Miguel, you mentioned that Okinawa. You told me the other day an expression in Japanese. Maybe you would like to explain, was is quite interesting.
I agree.
Yeah, this expression, you can find it also in the book I presented, and we can it, and it's arachi, and it means that you stop eating when you feel you're full in 80% of your
I've heard that
capacity.
before, actually. So yeah, I know it.
So that's the same, I think, in any way, like a basic idea of what I'm trying to transmit is that you cannot just import a list of food. So it's like like maybe something more polemic, something more polemic. The way that you consume alcohol is so different one country to another. Yesterday was shocked because the pubs here were full, people drinking. I was, it's 5 p.m. It's already full. Even at 8 or 9, it was still full. The way that they drink alcohol is a different way that we drink alcohol in Spain. And also the type of alcohol, and if you mix this alcohol with milk or not. So I'm not saying anything positive or negative. I will not go through this, discussion because it will take a lot of time. But just the culture about foods, alcohol. So this the way that they understand in Japan is this moderation when you eat. That you stop eating before you feel you're full. So this is part of the culture. So I think that's relevant.
Yeah, I think like it's everything about balance. It's coming back to the lifestyle patterns, right? No matter what you do, eating, like generally the concept of well-being is a balance. So you can still eat processed food in some points, but it should be balanced. And then let's say 100% like of your week consumption, right? If you wanna count that in that way, 99%, 90% should consist of healthy choices, right? And your self-cooked foods and meals and self-prepared, and then maybe 5% you might take and eat sometimes like afford to yourself, like spoil yourself, and this some processed food if you like. I don't know, like different habits, different preferences, but coming back, it should be like a balance. Alcohol and in terms of eating what you eat, it's just like you find the golden point and go like just making your choices start from there.
Yeah, that's interesting. You have this the pyramid just transmits this idea. Don't need to omit any food, but just the frequency that you eat the food has to be different. But there are other people that they decide to be vegetarians or vegans, so they decide for different reasons to avoid completely some specific foods. Or I have some colleagues that they just omit to eat red meat ever. So, but yeah, I think mostly people they prefer to have the possibility to eat anything, although they should modulate it. Here the problem is the influence that we have all the time in the media to eat like an easy food without cooking, without doing anything. But we are losing a lot when we don't cook. That's what also I'm trying to say in my talk. And also because another polemic thing is the red meat consumption, because of course there are some environmental issues, but also I, for example, cook a lot with the sous vide technique. So this is a low temperature technique where you cook red meat below 100 Celsius degrees. So you don't produce any contaminants at this temperature. So it can be like 55 Celsius degree for 3 hours. And the meat is so, the taste, the texture, the flavor in general, because you have a vacuum bag the meat with the different herbs or oils, spices. So it's so different. And at the same time, it's healthy. So I mean that, so it's just not what you choose not to eat, but also the way that you cook or you prepare.
May I ask, sir, last question? What would you think about?
Let's give the opportunity.
Go.
Hi, thank you so very much for the presentation. Excellent, loved it, enjoyed it because it's very on the nose with my PhD dissertation. So I worked on conflicting goals, calorie attentiveness, and food choice. So again, about nudge theory, where Pierre and Shandon had talked about healthy promotion behaviors and they did find out that you're more likely to reduce chances of people choosing unhealthy food, but getting people to make healthy promotion is much harder. To get people to adopt healthier behaviors is just significantly harder. And I think what I did then focus on, and which is a big question I had for you, is this your research is very holistic, so it's very end to end, which is how we live as human beings, and so it's very focused on well-being as well in terms of health. Great. But I think a big factor there is time. So your research is requiring all of us to slow down, and I think we have a huge time poverty in the way we are moving as people in the world globally. Everybody is rushing from place to place, and that has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. Rich people, poor people are suffering from time. Having family dinners is becoming more and more rare in many Western cultures. And so people don't cook. People order takeout, even for their kids. Or the places at the higher end of the hierarchy, which is dry cooking, microwave, oven, air fryer, those things that are what's called quicker. And so I'm saying it's vegetarian. I don't think that's where the question is. It's good for us. We know. How can we get people to change how they think of time? Because this is, I think, a harder part to do, to get people to slow down, to get people to want to spend time with their family consistently, because it's not hosting friends over once a week that changes your health behavior. Is taking family dinner time as a constant, at least 4 to 5 times a week. And then you will use your leftovers. You will eat what you have cooked. But it's 2 hours you have to spend.
Yeah, that's, as you said, thank you. You have like a very important question and hard to find a solution. But I would say 2 things. One is that, first of all, we have right now the technology that we can adapt our daily life. So I cannot, I cook at home, and I have 4 kids, so I have a large family. So I know exactly what it means, to cook every day for a large family. But you have some possibilities that maybe my grandmother, she didn't have to cook. She had to spend the whole morning cooking, going to the market, etc. So I can buy food online. So I don't need to spend time on that. And also I can use, for example, the microwave to cook. So in 6 minutes, you have very nice salmon cooked with soy sauce and other spices. And you can buy it frozen salmon, so it's not expensive. And you have the dinner, with some salad. So you can find some solutions to fight against this lack of time that we have right now. So I know it's not perfect. Also, I think the lower the socioeconomic level, the harder it can be. So we cannot, avoid these discussions, because probably people can say, okay, and the second idea for me is that this is far away from my experience, for my expertise, but you can read from people that they can, these books or interviews or surveys, people, and they say, okay, what did you miss when you are at the end of your life? So are we doing the things that we should do? What's the thing that you're doing with your time? Are you spending enough time with your people that you love, your families? So maybe our priorities are wrong right now. So maybe we should stop doing something, maybe earning less money, although we need it. And for example, for this reason, as you said, okay, there are many things changing, and the lack of time, people don't have time to have dinner together. But I think, okay, so what should we do? Just see and observe that society is going that way, or should we do something to change it? Because, for example, I think that if you have children, you need time with them. If you don't have dinner or lunch, when are you going to talk, with a teenager that she or he doesn't want to be with you, at all because he's a teenager. So, but for example, during the dinner, you have this situation where you have maybe sometimes there are some fights, but at least you have this opportunity. So it's much even more than just eating healthy. It's just the debate, the ideas that you discuss, what happened to her or to your son about something in the school. I know. So for sure that we should recover this. I've been trying to conduct a similar study to the NHS study at the European level, and I applied for Horizon Europe project. I passed the second stage, but I was not lucky enough. But I remember it was coordinating 23 centers all over Europe in order to have together the project. And there were some colleagues from the north of Europe, and they told me that we never have dinner together. We don't have time. We have different schedules. And I was thinking, okay, maybe that's time to change it. I don't know if we can, but so just to collect two ideas. Just first, I think we try to adapt to our time, doing different things, and second, maybe we need to resist to go in this direction. So, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm in complete agreement with that response. So thank you for saying it. I did have, two more questions, if that's okay.
We need to finish, but maybe the last two questions will be perfect. Yeah.
Oh, what time?
That's fine.
Okay. So I want to talk about culture, which is what you've been talking about, and how we eat in different cultures. So even in cultures where people eat at home a lot, there's still the possibility for those foods to be high in calorie because, like you say, the taste, what they consider to be tasteful, might be things that are high in oil content, even in olive oil. And not to ding on my culture, but there can be that tendency because it does make food more flavorful, right? And so people can be heavy-handed on it. So it does require a lot of education, even beyond home-cooked foods and beyond each vegetables, cook it just minimally, because we'll add the vegetables right at the end so that it just steams, it retains all the nutrients, all of those good things, but the base level of oil is still high in calories. And so how do we of course there's lots of education going around in some of those cultures where they be like, oh, carb content, maybe say curry, for example, it can be based in lentils, very high protein, very good, delicious stuff. But then if you're using too much naan, then it goes outside of the healthy region. And so portion control, all of those bits within the ingredients that are being used also should be a big part, don't you think, of the education?
Yes, for sure. I think that's challenging, and that's a great question that we are roots in our culture. So our taste is related with what we were eating when we were in our family as kids. So maybe a traditional meal from your country, from each one of us, is not healthy at all. So that may happen, and you love it. And as I said, maybe the Mediterranean diet, for some reasons, it was healthy from a traditional perspective. But in others, of course, there is not. And there are many places in Spain that they are not healthy also. But but you need to know, okay, that's something I should consume just occasionally. And there is also a challenging that some groups from, for example, from the Basque Culinary Center, where I collaborate with them, is to adapt traditional meals to a more healthy version. So that could be also, but it's very hard to move people from what they already know, and it's the same to what I said with, the elder people. When you tell them, okay, you need to change because you have type 2 diabetes, and it's so hard to make them change because, they say, I'm not going to change, So it's, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And the last bit is about protein intake. So a lot of, to maintain muscle mass for satiety, and all of that. I think so far in the Mediterranean diet, I'm hearing a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, olive oil, herbs, which are great to use a lot, good. But I haven't heard that much about protein, which is also a big part of healthy eating and staying full out for longer, which means you're less likely to consume unhealthy foods. And so to what degree is that incorporated in the Mediterranean diet?
Yeah, the Mediterranean diet is also known as a plant-based diet. So it doesn't mean that only plants, but mostly it should be plant-based. And from there, you get most of the proteins from, for example, legumes or nuts. So you have some parts of the plant-based foods that are very rich in proteins. And then the recommendation is to consume also, of course, animal foods, including fish, and basically white meat, and to avoid as much as possible red meat as the source of protein.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this.
Okay, thank you very much. We need to finish. So first of all, thank you to Miguel for coming from Spain to spend some time with us here in London to enjoy this lovely weather. And
in Pamplona is similar, so no problem.
You have a very busy agenda, and thanks to you that joined us online or also here in campus for your time, because we are close to the Christmas season. I received a lot of emails from our colleagues and friends that couldn't join us today. That's why we're recording the session. We will upload on YouTube, and this is a message for all of you who are here today, but also for those of you who will watch this video in the future. Please join this conversation, because there are many problems with child obesity when it's a pandemic, and the only way we have to solve, at least to humbly contribute of this problem, these challenges, with a multidisciplinary approach. People from marketing, people from public health. Also, we need chefs, we need restaurant owners, schools, we need hospitals, celebrities, probably social media influencers. So please join us in this conversation, also philosophical conversation, as Duni said, what are we doing with our time? Are we using wisely our time? And also, how can we use a better energy to solve these problems that we have today in society? So please join us, and yes, and have a Merry Christmas and well-deserved Christmas break. It's been a busy semester. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.